Okay, welcome back, folks. We are now going to do the last part of our comments exercise where we're learning how to use objects in the object browser and deal with properties and methods and events. And the last two are kind of fun. What we want to have happen here is when the user clicks on the um, red, yellow, or green option controls, we want to actually change the display of these comment boxes. Now, a comment object is displayed using what's called a shape. There's a special property, excuse me, a kind of thing in Excel, and not just Excel, but all of the Microsoft Office products called a shape. And if I go into here, I can insert a shape. For example, I could insert a rounded rectangle. There's an entire chapter in the Excel VBA primer on dealing with shapes in Excel. Has nothing to do, that particular chapter has nothing to do with VBA programming. But each of the sheets in a workbook has a collection of shape objects, and that collection is called shapes with an S. And you can actually manipulate that collection and those shape objects using Visual Basic, and you can learn how to do that using the object browser and the Excel VBA help. But also there is a shape. If we go back to let me jump over to the developer window here for a second. Let's go back into the object browser, and we're going to look at the properties, the members of a comment object. You notice one of those is a shape object. And if we go into the shape object, it has a lot of different properties. Auto shape type, background style, fill, cut, copy. There's methods and properties. There is a fill property, which is itself another object. There's a fill format. Well, fill format applies to a lot of things, so that makes sense. And there's also there's a back color, and there is a fore color. So the back color, fore color, that has to do with when you apply a pattern to a shape. Sometimes that pattern is two-toned, but when it's a solid color, we want to deal with the fore color. So if you go to the fore color, that's a color format object, and it has a number of different properties, one of which is the RGB property. And if we right-click on that and go to the help file, you'll see that RGB is basically a long that represents the red, green, blue value of the specified color. A color format object. Now that so basically there's a number that you can assign to the RGB property and representing the different colors. Unfortunately, there are some Visual Basic constants associated with that, but we're getting really down deep into the weeds now. Let's go back and let's exit the browser and go back to Excel. And so we're going to go into design mode, and we're going to double click on the red item, and then we're going to cheat here. We're going to copy our for each loop to the clipboard again, and then paste that here. I'm just using the control keys to do this. And we want, instead of manipulating the visible property, we're going to say mycom.shape dot fill dot fore color dot RGB equals. Now this is where I'm going to rely on a little experience here. And so one of the ways to change the color, and there are other ways to do this, if you ever want to figure out how to do this, selecting a shape and recording a macro is a good way to do it. But I do know through experience that one of the most convenient ways to change a color using the RGB property is to use a Visual Basic constant. We're going to type VB red. So fortunately, Visual Basic, VB means this is a global Visual Basic constant. It's available anywhere in Visual Basic, and it represents an integer, but because we don't want to have to remember a bunch of codes, it just provides this constant. We just type VB red and it says, oh, okay, let's make it red. And I'm going to copy that to the clipboard and go back to Excel, and we're going to double click and paste, and you guessed it, there is a VB yellow, and there is also a paste, there is a VB green, and sure enough that should work. So let's try this out. Go back to Excel, save your changes, exit design mode, and first of all we're going to show our comments, and let's see, whoops, I need to reposition that one a little bit, and we're going to select red, yellow, green. Red, yellow, red, green, works like a charm. Okay, and that sticks around, and again you can change the position of these if you like. You can resize them, and show again, yellow, red, green, works beautifully. Alright, so that's number 8. Our last step is to complete is step number 9, and that is to change the shape type. What does that mean? Well, these shapes by default are rectangles, but it turns out we can use some different shapes rather than a rectangle to display our comments. And so to do that, we're going to go into design mode. We're going to double click on shape 1, and then I've still got my code on the clipboard. I'm going to paste that, and I'm going to go right back to here. I'm going to do mycom.shape dot, and there's this property called the auto shape type, and I'm going to set that equal to, now this is what's called an enumerated type, and I wish we would have gotten this list with the RGB property. Sometimes it displays it, sometimes it doesn't. And again, these are constants, predefined constants. The MSO means these are available in all instances of Microsoft Office, whether you're doing Excel or Word or PowerPoint or Access and so forth. And yeah, this allows us to pick one from a list. There's this really big list of shapes. These are the different shape types. So let's try a 12-point star. See how that works. And then let's go back to Excel, double click on shape 2, and then, you know, in this case I'm going to copy that code and paste it, and I'm going to go back and delete the equal sign, and let's try MSO. Let's see, there's one called an explosion 2. Let's try that, and then go back to Excel, double click, and then paste, and let's pick one more out just randomly from the list. Let's do a chevron. Okay, so we've kind of randomly selected 3 different shapes, and we're going to go back here and click save, and now we get an error message. So yeah, I've encountered this before. I don't know why, but some of these auto shape types are off limits for certain circumstances, and so let's try a cloud. I'm just going to randomly pick one here. It doesn't like that one either. I guess I should have practiced this a little more. Let's try a diamond. Did that work for us? Oh, there we go. Seemed like that worked. Again, it's kind of a mystery to me why some shapes are allowed and some aren't, but here we go. So chevron, diamond, explosion, and we can change the background color. And so that's kind of fun. I mean, not that I can imagine why you'd ever want your comments to look like this, but it's possible. And but the important thing is, through these set of steps 1 through 9, we've gained some experience in dealing with objects and collections. We've learned how to use the object browser as a tool to look up different objects and collections and to look at what properties they have. We've learned to use methods and properties, and the sky's the limit. Once you learn these basics on how to investigate and dig into different objects that are available, you can do just about anything with Visual Basic in Excel. So this completes the entire comment working with objects exercise.